Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Wells Revival. It's Wednesday, 2nd of November, 2022, and I still don't have an intro video. Perhaps next week or at the latest the week after, because I won't have so much work to do for the Sunday. So it's lovely that you're with us for our weekly time for exploring holy wells and sacred pools and blessed waters, exploring the water mysteries and the water well and pool traditions. And whenever possible, we'll have news of holy wells that are being restored, part of the revival, of course. So hail, hail, whole and holy good health for you all, because through this edition, I'm going to be exploring the folklore and stories of cursing at holy wells. And I think, let's see if I can get something up. I was saying I should have my photographs up, so let's try the photos. Let's just get me out of it. There you go. That's what we got for that one. Unfortunately, no guest today. I'm solo, but we got a lovely guest next Wednesday. I'm very looking forward to that. So Holy Wells Revival and Nature Folklore Sessions, videos and the sanctuary support are all brought to you due to the support of our very kind subscribers. So thank you, subscribers, for your continued support. If you can help to cover the show's expenses, there's the Patreon link right there. And helping out with £1, euro, or $1 or more a month, it helps keep the show afloat. And so thank you very much for your support. And for those people who are not too happy you going through Patreon, and now I'm losing my screen, there is the alternative. If you just want to use a card, you can go through here. I'll get the banner running just about. There we go. Buy me a coffee as well. So those are the two ways of pooling the money so I can put these show on the road. So thank you very much. Right. Let's see. Any early birds commenting at the moment? It is the evening here. We've got Amy Dixon here, which is lovely to see you here from Elora, Ontario. Thanks for joining. And I'm sure more will join in. I'm going to put Paul out to see if I'm really being too early. I did do a poll at some point, and that was the favorite time, was 7 o'clock on a Wednesday. But I think I'll put it back out there because people do tend to come in a bit later. Penny Stevenson's turned up from Buck Hill. Looking forward to this. Elizabeth Flynn, so maybe it's not too early. Yeah, wet and windy. The whole country of Ireland's wet and windy. And lovely to see you, Elizabeth. Anyway, I put the poll out to see if you want to be 7, 8, or 9 o'clock on Wednesday. Wednesday's a lovely day for me to do this. Anyway, I hope there isn't any voting to change that. So let's get on with the show here. Curses at Holy Wells. It's perhaps one of the most melancholic subjects I can bring up among Holy Wells folklore. And it looks like I put a melancholic sweater on because it is cold and so forth, and I should have put something more bright colors. Anyway, I'm dealing with the cursing at Holy Wells because it is a very strong tradition that exists at Holy Wells, also at various springs and pools, not only in Ireland, all around the world, the UK especially, up in Scotland, and as I say, around the world as it is. But as this is the Samhain time, we've had the Halloween, we've got the cross quarter coming up Monday next week. It seems to be the best time of this annual cycle to open up with cursing, with this subject for a little while. But to me, cursing reveals perhaps one of the darkest, cruelest deeds that's actually performed by the human race. So I still have a bit of confusion. What is this doing at the Holy Wells? But many people seem to passionately feel that cursing is totally justified as a form of justice. And cursing really is a process of prosecution, trial, judgment, and punishment that's all in one. And all of this together, possibly with just a turn of a stone. Now we'll look at the different some different cursing traditions that happen beside water around Ireland, around the UK, and different parts of the world. A little bit. I didn't have time to put much of the world folklore into this, but we'll see how we go. But could the practice, this is a big question that will be coming up through this session, is could the practice of cursing actually pollute a holy well and pollute it from its healing use forever. And I'll be discussing that a fair bit. So what are the possible consequences upon the curser that does the cursing near the water, near the well? Now, what are the consequences to that person conducting the cursing? And I believe some understanding of the old traditions of cursing could help us actually to shy away from this, what is really an impulse fast practice of judgment, and perhaps replace the cursing practice through employing a much more compassionate mediation, which people, when they visit Holy Wells today, that's what they really are hoping to find and engage in. So do you believe Holy Wells should be sacred spaces for peace rather than a place to deal with conflict with others? This is going to be a very strange episode for me, as I don't believe in the deed of cursing at all. It's just because it is a tradition at the Wells, I feel it's very fair to present it. But I do feel it's one of the worst human intentions that we could ever have. Anyway, we'll go through it and see how you feel about this. Now, the practice of humans taking on the role of being a single-handed judge and jury and believing on placing responsibility of carrying out the punishments onto the unseen entities such as the Sidhe and the fairies, to me, this is a further belief in divisions rather than compassions. And to me, I think it's divisions that seems to have polluted us as a human race for hundreds, even thousands of years. Plus, cursing, to me, as I interpret it, is another practice of controlling people and controlling their beliefs by enchanting them with even more fear. But despite me saying all of this, the craft of cursing is very much part of the Holy Welsh tradition. Can't ignore that. And actually, many people do believe that this tradition, or any tradition around the Holy Welsh, should never ever be changed, no matter how cruel it may seem. But as I say, I think during the past 200, 300 years, much more, the practice of cursing has actually put off people from visiting and being present at some of the Holy Wells. And that may well be a leading cause of why many of the Holy Wells have actually faded away beyond existence. It's not just the farmers filling them up. I believe the superstition and the cursing activities may well have caused the elimination of some wells. I'll take that off for now. Right, I've got some pictures later. I had a lot more pictures I wanted to put up. I'm really putting this on last minute. Some cursing going on here. All right, so there. I've soapboxed the case against cursing without explaining the variations and components of the tradition, which is really what's much more interesting, and that's what I'll get on with. So that's what I do for most of this session now. Now, the tradition of cursing, it seems to have moved onto us from the ancient Greeks, then through the Romans, and eventually arrived amongst us in the UK. And a sort of a different form, which has got some other origins, has arrived on Ireland. But cursing, it certainly became very active in the west of England and Wales. And I'm going to talk about cursing in Ireland a bit later, but I'll stick with Wales and a bit of England at the moment. Now, one thing I've noticed is that the cursing tradition seems to have hastily evolved from one culture to another, the way it's passed on and changed. And it seems cursing becomes present in cultures that actually create order, accumulation, economics, wealth. And when you get that situation of education and economics, management, order, all that, what this seems to do is provoke or evolve a privileged class. Now, from the Romans, inspired by the Greeks, cursing was commonly done by scribing the curse on stone tablets. And this was done by elite scholars because they had learned to read and write, so they could do the scribing. And then these scribed tablets were placed into the holy water so that the entities of the water could read them and take action. So I suppose from that tradition, the water has also been to university to read Latin and Greek too, so they could read these cursing stones as they put into the water. But about 2/3 of the cursing tablets that have been recovered by archaeologists, etc., they all come from spa waters that are in Greece, that are still in Greece, in Crete, that type of place. And then that leaves a third, and the remainder, let's see if I can get something up on this. About half of the remaining third came up in Bath. Is that's an actual illustration of one that's in Bath, Spa Waters of Bath in Somerset in England. And some of these tablets, they had wax figurines pinned to them. Now, that's not wax figurine printing. That's actually put into a bit of a stone case. But that's a cursing piece of wax. It's obviously cursing someone, and that's been put in as well. And the most common cursing really was actually against thieves. Let's see if I can get this one up. This is a sort of, no, it hasn't come up. There you go. That's actually a tablet. That's a curse. I don't know who it is, but that's a Roman curse that's against thieves. And I think it's in a museum in Bath. It was retrieved from the baths there. But as I mentioned, this became the deeds of the privileged class to do the cursing because they'd achieved accumulation while others went without. So what happens? The side effect of accumulation when we gain things was the breeding of the culture of thieves. So the biggest challenge in commerce, and commerce causes people to accumulate stuff, is theft. Of course, that's not much different to today's litigation events, is it? If you think about it. Now, in short, cursing practices, they arrived from Greece and Rome, and the cursing was a practice against rivals, not only just thieves, although thieves were the targets in many cases. But anybody that was a challenge upon the curser's wealth and position, even if Musk was in ancient times, there's certainly been some pins and wax thrown in the wells and so forth, and other people doing it in reverse. That's the sort of thing going on. But perhaps the weirdest thing to me is the cursing practices were actually venerated by priests, the priests that were present at the wells, at the water. And that's whether we call that person a priest, a druid, or even a shaman. They all seem to be there to conduct and oversee the cursing and even orchestrate it. And so this, it makes me wonder what the real purpose of a priest or druid was in those ancient times. Certainly might not have been exclusive to the purpose of peace, may not have been for the purpose of peace at all. Now, these cursing priestly types, they were paid well. This is what was behind it, I believe. They were paid well for their cursing services in some way. Now, for Spa Holy Well was used frequently for cursing activities rather than healing, the cursing services were actually found to be much more profitable than providing healing services. But people themselves declared that the holy wells that were accepting cursing services from their priests, they become places for communicating with the devil to carry out punishing deeds. Because even the devil concept and beliefs in the devil have been drummed up by the very same priests. So this must have been very confusing. Now, regular users of these holy wells that have become sites for cursing practice, people would then avoid these wells due to the fear that they themselves, if they approach the wells, will get tangled up with the devils themselves. Now, some of these holy wells actually, rather than being called holy wells, became known as devil's wells instead. Now, examples, I think I've got some pictures of examples here. There's St Mary's Church, Bishop Lydiard near Taunton. Let's see if I got that. It's not a very good photo, unfortunately. Sort of a misty photo. It's roadside. If you go to Bishop Lydiard, I think it's northwest of Taunton, not very far. Let's see. Is it not Is it St. I forget whether it's St. Anne's or that. There it is. It's a very vague photo. You can see the roadside there in the dark. Is it St. Anne's or is it St. Mary's? I know St. Anne's is supposed to be the mother of Mary, so maybe it's called both. But that's, as I say, is in Taunton in Somerset. And then another one, we go to Wales. That's the way it looks today. That's Finan Elian as well. Finan means saint. So St. Elian as well. It's near Llanelin in Ross. It's not far from Colwyn Bay in Wales. And I've actually been there. I've enjoyed a couple of short vacations near that well. It was many years ago, I think. When would it have been? It would have been in the 60s, I think I've been there. And that Welsh well, Finan Elian, was once a very welcoming well. Let's get something up if I can. No, he's not there, is he? Yeah. Pictures. Well, please. There we go. That's the altar that's there. And Finan Elian, he was very welcome keeper. He was renowned as a healer. But I don't know the actual years. I don't know when his lifetime was, presumably before the Protestant Christians came into being. But whatever he was following, he actually lived a Protestant-style kind of priesthood. He had the freedoms to get married was one of them. And he had a family, and that family had descendants, and each descendant took over the well keeping there. But one of his descendants, Jack Elian, which was J-A-C, he discovered, and we're really forward now, this is the 18th century, he discovered there was much more money to be made from providing cursing services at a well rather than provide healing services. So apparently he set up a business there, did Jack. He charged 5 shillings to create a curse, but it was 15 shillings if you changed your mind and you wanted to reverse that curse. And you see, cursing, therefore, there's actually a catch to cursing if you follow the folklore, because as I mentioned, cursing is a speedy one-person process of accusation, prosecution, and then judgment. And that judgment's passed over to the paid cursor, who does the sentencing and calls upon the punishment to be served by the unseen entities, such as the she or the fairy folk, whatever you translate it. Okay, some people are commenting before I go on to what actually happened to Jack. Here we go. Andrew Rosewood here. Lovely to have you here. Megan here. Megan Ducey Burgess from Santa Rosa, California. Wonder. And Amy, from what I was saying about the cursing, place of healing. This is why I'm putting this off, but it's to show you that cursing is a major tradition. And I'm glad we've mainly moved on for this, because people who go to the Holy Wells now, they really want it as a place of peace and healing. But it's sharing the tradition. This is the time of year, I think, it's a very good time to do for that. Anyway, for a person to employ a cursing priest, I think, for this cursing, he or she had better be very clear that that person that they want to have cursing is indeed 100% guilty of the crime that revenge is wanted to be enforced on the person. Now, if the person is innocent, turns out to be innocent, then it's said that the curse backfires and it ends up living with the accuser until, of course, the accuser pays the priest 3 times more than the payment for the cursing to undo the curse that was paid to spin the curse. So, this is where Jack did well. People just in their revenge came along with a 5 shillings. Curse that sort of so then realizing it's just sort of anger them. But sometimes you just want to blame someone. When you get angry, I just have someone to blame. If you blame the wrong person, boom, the whole thing's coming back to you. So you go back to Jack and you pay your 15 shillings to get it reversed. He's made 20 shillings out of you, a lot of money at that time in the 18th century. Anyway, Jack was actually sent to prison twice during the early 19th century due to profiting from cursing, which was actually illegal in Wales at the time. But since the... let's line up some pictures again. But since the time of Jack, the Elian Well has never been regarded as a healing site ever again. That's a sign there. Finan, that's how you spell Finan in Wales. It's not like the Finan here, Finan, which a lot of priests call themselves Finans. Lovely one in Caish in County Sligo, retired now. But it's quite going there is quite a tourist attraction today. Now, the structures of the well that were present at the time of the Elians, Finan, Elian, Jack, even, all those structures have gone. That's structures that you've seen in the photographs. They've been put up since, I suppose, people trying to clean up the well, take away the curse. And again, tourism has its benefits, so to improve the tourism ambience. So when you go there today, the well there up near Corwin Bay, it's more like a peaceful pilgrimage site, even a picnic site if you go there. It is a lovely place. Now, the cursing rituals, they're actually varied at these various cursing wells, or devil's wells, as some people call them. Now, one tradition was, yeah, there we go. If I got it, is parchment of the curse. The curse was written on parchment because they didn't have paper like we got now. And that was wrapped in lead. That's actually a lead casing there. And that was put into the well as well. Hang on, is that one of you messaging? No, it isn't. Okay. Oh, it might be one of you messaging. I'll look at after the show anyway. Well, thank you, whoever sent that. Yeah, as I say, putting the lead in the well is another one. And in Wales, there is a lot of slate. So curses were scribed onto slate and put into the well. I didn't have a chance to put a photo up of that as an example. Now, another one was wax figurines, if I've got something. And I showed one that was in the Bath spa there. But some of them, they had pins stuck in them and placed into the well. Now, I couldn't find any of that, but that's an intriguing one. That's actually, I don't know the background to that, but that's actually a sex curse. That's, I don't know this, but someone was cursed for their sexuality with that one. I'll find the story one day. It's in some museum somewhere, and it's probably got a story with it. Anyway, I'll refrain from that for now. Perhaps the most simplest and discreet curse was praying a curse onto a pin without sticking it in something, then bending the pin and placing it in the well. That's very much a DIY thing that unfortunately is still done by some people today. Now, the concern and horror to me must be, and it must be with most people now, is that there was actually more profit to be made from the keepers of the well, from the priests, whether they were shamans, druids, whatever they were, more profit from cursing than there was from healing. But there again, I suppose today there's actually more profit from arms sales than there are from health services. Though when we look at pharma profits, we might wonder about that one, of course. But over here in Ireland, the cursing industry became very popular. Right from the early medieval times, the churches and monastic communities, they actually sited themselves in spaces where entrepreneurism and commerce would actually flow. They're there to bring the gospels, but no, they were taking over the sites for commercial reasons. And if they picked their sites right, they managed to take over them and convince the chieftains that they were on a holy mission. Boom, they were in the sites. They would do these sort of missions and miracles type of thing in front of the chieftains, the card trick type stuff. And they would find themselves in a position where they could accumulate wealth for the church. So where they're set up, well, the monks stayed in poverty indeed, but there was, even in the monasteries and the monastic communities, there was a kind of hidden shareholders that were reaping the rewards. And even a lot of those rewards went out to funding battles. Just like today, a lot of the shareholders from different industries, they actually, the funding goes off to the arms for the battles. Anyway, the sort of business, the monastic industries, food markets was a big thing. But where they reaped in a lot of money was tolls at highways, because often they'd be in a valley where there was only one road passing, there'd be a toll. Bridges, tolls on bridges across rivers, what were previously fords as well, that they built a bridge, tolls over those. and various crossroads, and there was even charges to access wells, both for the cursing and healing, and access to any water. They sort of took over the water as well, so they made rewards. They didn't get coins as such. It was just exchange of goods, building materials, and stuff to perhaps feed their scribes, that type of thing. And they also provided various medical services, including brewing. And certainly the nunneries were big into that. And then to add all that, eventually the branches of church priests, they discovered there was a huge demand in cursing services. So, of course, they took advantage of that. Now, Ireland did have some practice using the wax dolls, like what I use, like the pin in the sex curse there. And also with the bent pins without the dolls as well. But also, I showed you the lead one, the wrapped parchment curses. But with them in Ireland, instead of putting those protected parchments in the well, they tended to be put under stones that's near the well. And a lot of people, when they've actually got wishes, healing wishes, like hanging a bridge's cross, an alternative is to actually wrap up that wish and put it under a stone. That's the sort of nice healing side. But of course, this is a cursing episode. The most familiar cursing, of course, to us are the cursing stones. If I can bring up cursing stones, there we go. There's a cursing stone there. It's on stone altars, and that one is a mass rock. It's beside the well, St. Leslie's well outside Keju in County Roscommon. And I think I've got some more pictures. There we go. Well, that shows you the whole setup there. There's the cursing stone on the mass rock. Behind that is the well. It looks like someone's sitting down on the step there, and the mayor is there. That was an ash tree at the back that was a kind of clooty tree, and someone chopped it down. And it's a shame. It must have died. That is kind of in its old days. That well has changed. There's a lot of features in that well then that are not there now. A lot of that's been broken down and really in the name of neat and tidy. But it's nice to get that one. It's got a few tokens there. Gives you a sense of what that is. Do I have another one? Yeah. Oh, here's another one. Yeah, this is in St. Attractor's well, that's in Monastery Eden in County Sligo. And you notice there the cursing stones have been mounted in concrete. And I'll explain why a bit later. So we easily pick up, we can easily pick up a turning stone, and we can pick up the basics here in Ireland that you'll hear somewhere that turning the stone clockwise for healing and turning the stone anti-clockwise, that's what you do for cursing. But within the cursing practice, it's not quite that basic. Fortunately, the full cursing practice is hidden from us now because we're looking for the healing more so. But there are some upstarts around. They claim they've rediscovered the cursing secrets of the ancients. Often it's come to them in a dream how to do it, or after consuming some shrooms, I suppose. And then these opportunists, they label and brand themselves as shamans and witches because they've received the gift. And the gift is perhaps being the discovery of how to charge high fees for cursing services. And that's just dandy, isn't it? For some people to hire a shamanic assassin to set up untraceable cursing spells upon your enemy or someone you're just pissed off with. Absolutely no trace from cursing. Anyway, the shock to me is people's minds and intentions to actually think of snuffing out and cancel out people through a cursing practice and asking a shaman or a druid upstart to do that for them. Rather than the better practice to me is flowing through the process of mediation, compromise, and you can follow that up with creative healing. But the industry of revenge services, that's where the money is still, I believe. And but how useful is the money you earn from something like that? And so like what I explained with the UK wells, the person employing the cursor had better be 100% sure of the guilty verdict of the person being cursed, because it's not just a process of revenge through feeling pissed off inside and you just want someone to blame. Otherwise, that curse is going to come right back if the intended cursed person is innocent. Because the folklore is that once a curse is spun by whoever who's done it, it has to find a host. It doesn't just vanish into thin air. The folklore doesn't accept that. So the accuser ends up living with a curse until you find some so-called wise person that can undo it in some way. But personally, I don't believe in curses, as I mentioned, but there are many who do believe in them, and there are huge potential profits from that. That's why it keeps going. But finding human vulnerabilities, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's cursing, it's finding human vulnerabilities and then trading that. That's always been big business. Major businesses have been founded by just doing that. Now, maybe I've not got into the curing business myself. It may not be due to my disbelief, but due to perhaps a belief that anybody entering into the cursing or similar business, they're going to be doomed to be enchanted into a cursed life. Anyway, it's a bit like criminals anyway. You know, they're quite criminals, organized crime criminals. They can be wealthy, but they have to spend their life looking over their shoulders. And part of the actual cursing process is you actually throw water over the shoulders to brand the cursing. Anyway, I don't have any close details of the cursing traditions in Ireland, but there are several scripts and papers on this. I've just not had the time to read them yet. So what I'm talking to you this evening about is mainly what I've personally witnessed. Let's see, any questions on that? Have I missed any comments here with you? Thanks for those who are listening through this. I'm trying to find no extra comments yet. You might be on the next section. Let's see how we go with this. Let's move along here. There is talk that get the pictures line up. There is talk that the priests have used cursing stones since they were forced out of churches, when the priests were forced out of churches. Again, I'll bring back that one outside Keju. And there you go. There's a cursing stone. It's that actual mass rock. It's actually a broken up capstone from a nearby megalithic site. And right between there, from there you got the well. And from the well, there is a stream. The stream goes down into Loch Mila. It's now a culvert that's covered it, just making it neat and tidy. But that was open, and a bolon stone, which I'm going to be talking about, is actually there. Now, what the priests used to do to get these mass rocks, because mass wasn't allowed during the penal times, they would take a boat and from somewhere, and then this boat will come up to the stream. They will walk up the stream barefoot, and they would just step up to the mass rock, do the mass, and before the Protestants and the constables and so forth notice and bring their dogs, priest was already away down through the water onto his boat, and the dogs couldn't sniff his footprints. So anyway, let's talk the priests. They used the cursing stones since they were forced out of the churches, and the cursing then, it wasn't onto individuals really. It was, I would say the cursing may have become directed towards their own persecutors that were forcing them to change the culture from the local belief, the church, and the culture that was coming in, the colonial culture. It was also bringing about increased austerity upon the local people. So it's said that they did engage at mass in some cursing against what was afflicting everyone. Anyway, let's get another one up here. Along with the there we go. Along with those cursing healing stones around Ireland, there are bolon stones, which are a bit of a mystery. Here we go. There's a bolon stone. That's still in the same place. I talked about the bolon stone. That's not there at the moment, and I'm going to actually talk about that. That's during a drought time. That's the water coming out of the Lassie as well outside the Keju. And then it goes under that little bridge. That bridge is actually made with fragments of a capstone as well, ancient megalithic capstone. And then there's a stream that goes off down to Loch Mila. But they're a huge mystery, those bolon stones there. Anyway, I'll talk about that. There's there's these. I'm messing about with one. That's many years ago. There's multiple stones there, but there are. That's a huge boulder stone that's got a few cursing stones on it, and there's holes carved in there, and those stones are all mounted into sort of holes. A bit similar. It's more of a. God, you need more. Let's see. Yeah, like that. If you can imagine that, that's an oval one. Imagine more rounded ones, and that's what the top of that is. And the stones, they fit in quite nicely with that. And sometimes following stones, that's that one again, when they were doing it up, they took it out of, you see it there, it was overgrown. So when they were messing about with their neat and tidy, they took it up. That one's quite a portable one, that lassie as well. Now, the local people were thinking, now, what the hell are we going to do with this? So I'll tell you about that in a moment. Yeah. Now, there's an example. I haven't got one that Kiju. What they did with this, they built a concrete pedestal and they put it off. This one's actually in Roundwood in County Wicklow. So what? There's a few of these bologna stones that have been put on these pedestals. So what's happened? Have they converted from cursing into being bird baths? It looks like as if they would be perhaps used as bird baths. Maybe some people believe that the rainwater in them is holy water, because that is a tradition as well. A fairly recent tradition, probably 200-300 years, is collect the rainwater because people believe that will cure warts and skin diseases, the rainwater in one of these bologna stones. So many, if not most of these bowl carved stones, they were crafted well before Christian times. It was so it wasn't really, some of them were carved out by the sort of Christian-y kind of sculptors, but a lot of them were available to these churches in fields by wells already there. So it's not clear when they were actually made. Do these cursing bowls go back to Stone Age, Bronze Age, or Iron Age sometime? I actually suspect it's more likely to be the Iron Age myself. Now, these bologna stones uses before the Christian church came over, it's not very clear, very speculative. I don't know. All we know is that most of them were beside or near the flow of natural springs and wells, sometimes lochs. But where wells are dried up, the bologna stones, as I say, remains in the folklore because the water that falls in them from the rain suddenly becomes the holy water. And as I say, good for warts, they say, and skin growths and blemishes. Now, before Christian times, these stone bowls combined with what are now cursing stones. If you remember that cursing stone, shall I go back on the pictures here? No, think of this one. Think of those stones placed into something like that. I'm going to talk about that one in a minute. It's assumed to have been used for grinding something. That's the obvious thing. So what was ground up? Was it bones after a cremation? A bit of a Thanksgiving celebration after the grains of the first harvest were collected at the beginning of August? Or from grinding up ground plants, herbs, to combine with the well water to make poultices? Or was the use for all of these? Very speculative. But when the Christians took over custodianship of these holy wells, this included controlling access to these bologna stones and the stones that fitted into them. Now, eventually, the profitability of cursing services and using these stones as tools for cursing, that's what seemed to have taken over, unfortunately. Now, I think that's all I'll say about cursing stones and bolognas in this session, but there's a lot more I could tell, but try to keep these shorter than the Sunday ones. I'll add more another day, but there's one thing at some holy wells, like St. Attractor, which is the more near Monastery in County Sligo, and that was the picture there, is I briefly mentioned about that. If you look on the top of the altar at the top there, you'll see they're the stones. That's an old picture when it was overgrown. That's the stones fixed in concrete, so they can't be moved. And I should have another picture here. Yeah, that's a close-up of a more recent one because, unfortunately, a tractor smashed up the well. Sligo County Council did a great job rebuilding it, but they still concreted in the cursing stones, and they can't be moved. and all for very good reason. And I think the reason they're concreted in is to stop people who are not professional cursers from playing around and turning them or trying to steal them. Now, some places like St. Lazia's Well in, as I say, which I've been showing at Kiju. And has anybody been to Inishmurray Island over off the Sligo coast? For a while, people were banned from going there, but I think this summer there was some kind of licensing to go there. So there you go. You've got these altars. They've got masses of these cursing stones, and it looks like they were engraved in different amazing ways. And that there with a stone on top, that sort of rectangle, I haven't got the picture, but that's actually an empty pot. Fascinating thing. Sorry, I haven't got the picture of that one. But the public are trusted with those loose stones still, and trusted that they won't steal them. It's kind of their own responsibility if they want to turn them. But the reason they're trusted with these loose stones is because there is a strong tradition with the church and the locals around these loose stones. They do enforce strong warnings about what will happen if you turn them, and especially if you steal them, and especially if you steal the bolbullen stones as well. You'll be inflicted with total cursing for the rest of your life. So that's sort of distraction from trying to steal them. Also with the Inishmurray, the boatmen won't allow you to take those stones away. Goodness me, no, because that's part of their livelihood, is taking you out to the island. And look at these altars, look at these stones with the cursing stones on them. So there's one site, and I've shown some pictures already on this, it's Bridget's Well. I'll show you the sign. Let's get you a close-up sign. Forget, is it the N16 Black Lion? It's just about reaching the border. You get to Black Lion just a kilometre or so along the road from here. You go over the bridge, you're in Belcoo, and you're in Northern Ireland. And the townland is known as Killina. There you go. You might be able to see that old graveyard, 12th century cemetery, hence the Kill in the name, because it is a medieval church that's there. But I'm not sure what the full name means. I'm tempted to say it's an extension of Killin. And a Killin is a cemetery of unbaptized babies or unbaptized people. But in that area there, in that cemetery, is actually, there's evidence of there being a graveyard well before the Christians came along. So there were many people buried on that site before Christians came along. So, of course, the Christians would have regarded those people as being unbaptized too. So maybe that's where the killing comes in with that. And that site actually is the site of one of the earliest British churches in Ireland too, which is remarkable considering the distance it's away from Kildare and also from Fort in County Louth. So I'm wondering if there's a lot on this site, why this site is so popular, why it was so massive, why there was an early presence there, because this, let's see if I could get back on the pictures again. It might show you a bit more. Let's go back. You can see a bit of the landscape there. That was actually a potent Croncruach site, the first harvest site and the celebrations of Croncruach. But I've covered that in Nature Folklore editions. If you check back on the archives, I talk about Cromdove and Croncruach, and you can catch up on that. Anyway, that's all been a long-winded way for me to get to this. And it's there I am. I'm knocking myself out the front. This is a site where the cursing stones actually have been stolen and replaced. And the farmer has told me that the present stones are very different to when he was a lad. I must admit, between my first visit from around 1982 and I think my most recent visit, I haven't been there for ages. My most recent visit, I think, was 10 years ago, 2012. But between 82 and 12, there were a lot of stone changes. The stones didn't fit into the holes so well. But anyway, there's that top bolone there. What's it's got there? There's 13 holes and 12 stones. And there's different stories about why there's an empty hole and how those stones were handled. But I won't go into that because I'll be on here for ages. But under a couple of the stones, there was old money that was found. I think I have a picture of that there. There you go. Some money was found, some very old money lifting that. And it's wondered if that was someone doing some DIY cursing and leaving a token donation behind after the cursing. And doing that, I mean, DIY cursing, leaving some money behind, it kind of reminds me of these supermarkets today that are converting to self-checkouts. And what happens at self-checkouts? We make a lot of mistakes, don't we? So I wonder how many mistakes were made in the cursing process there. Anyway, beside this and adjoining here, there's smaller bolon stones. And now that's an overhead. It's not all the stones there. That's a real mishmash. There's some of the stones are out the holes to show you the holes. But notice those three stones that there are on the right. That's a separate bolon stone. I think it might be carved of the same stone, but you got three there and it's not clear, and there's only two holes showing. Yeah, that's the third hole. You got the third hole. Those three stones, they fit into that, so there's no spare hole like there is on the top. And some cursing rituals do include, when you do a ritual, there's actually three ingredients, and of course that's very, as you know, that's very much a tradition in stories in Ireland. Everything is done in threes, and three comes from the cursing tradition, it seems. But if you pick up more Grimm's and modern fairy stories, especially from the Celtic Romance evolved stories from the 19th century, even late 18th century, you'll find the stories, the wishing stories especially. Give me three wishes. And one sequence for cursing with three things is to actually have a cursing stone, an elder stick present, and try to do that where you've got a background chorus of a lone corncrake. If you get those three, you've got the conditions for cursing. That's one of the spell binding things you can do. Now, it's elder. I mentioned the elder wood. Now, that's regarded as a tree where the spirits of a cursing wise woman actually lives. And today we might just call that wise woman a witch, because we love talking about witches. But I think that may take meaning away from what the spirit is believed to be within the elder. Now, one fairly modern story of this site is, and it doesn't go back that far, I think it goes into the 90s, a bunch of prisoners. There is a prison not far away from that site. So to give them a day out, the prisoners went down to this site because there's the abbey, there's actually a holy well, they'll show you that in a minute. There's all those bolon stones, there's the old cemetery, and there's the remains of a megalithic site. So for the day out for the prisoners, they went there, and their job was to clean up around all the various ancient sites that were there. And of course, some of them, when they got there, aha, cursing stones. So what did they do? Started turning them anti-clockwise, and they started cursing the people who had enforced them into prison. I haven't heard any stories of what the effects of that was. But the one thing, the convicts didn't make any payment in return for using the stones. So they may not have been aware that their judgment through the cursing stones, they were blaming this person, that screw, that judge, blah, blah, blah. But the chances are, unfortunately, not being wise to those cursing stones, possibly the curses came back to them. Some of them may ended up with extended jail times. I hope not. But that's what might happen if you become a cursing stone turner without knowing what you're doing. Anyway, finally, with this Killinarth story, there's Bridgetwell nearby. It's huge, but unfortunately it's dry, and most of the stonework that was there has fallen away. And outside, I haven't got any decent outside. I have got photos, but I never got them up in time for the show. But it's what you see when you approach it is a circle of hazels, willows, and hawthorns. So it looks as if you're approaching a fairy ring. But here we go. I think I'll get the pictures up for this. You might like this. I'm sure you'll like this. There we go. There's me. I've just entered it, and it's quite a challenge to get inside. But once you're inside, you discover that someone has left a bucket there. Let's get that. There we go. Someone left a bucket there. That was the well. It's all dried, overgrown with wild this, that, and the other, with plants and flowers. quite boggy, but someone left there. The idea is to collect the rainwater from the trees, and that is the blessed water there now. And then that's looking, there's that stones, the Bologna stones with the cursing stones. That's me standing outside the well, and so that gives you a sense of the distance, how close it was. Maybe when there was a well, it'd be no problem bringing a bucket over to the cursing stones there. So there you go, the rainwater, collecting the rainwater dripping from the tree branches for healing and for blessings. Anyway, I'm going to stop cursing at Holy Wells right there, but also recommend, I've mentioned cursing at Holy Wells as a major Holy Wells tradition. And traditional purists, as I say, will argue we should hold on to those traditions and not change them. But if that was so, and we didn't change tradition, a lot of us will go around hanging people from trees ourselves. We're fed up with someone, we can hang a person from a tree beside a well because that was once their tradition. So I don't think we need to hold on to cruel traditions like that. I feel cursing at wells needs closure. And one of the reasons of sharing this with you, show what they are. If we get a public feeling of this, this is a part of Holy Wells revival. I know it's changing the tradition, but I feel let's get closure to this nasty stuff, and so that we can exclusively revive wells for the peace, contemplations, visions, and all the healing medicine that we get from them, and not have wells banished and people having suspicions over them due to being sources of curses, and they fear approaching the wells due to fears and greed, their own greed, even poisons. Any questions or comments on what I've blabbed on and blethered on so far? I don't think I've missed anybody here. And I see some of you are still here, which is lovely. Anyway, Holy Wells Revival and Nature Folklore Sessions, as I say, the support brought to you by kind subscribers. And there's I got it in the wrong. There we go. There's the Patreon as a monthly subscriber. You do go through, they do take PayPal, which I actually prefer PayPal to the bank, because try getting a refund. It's so much faster through PayPal than it is through any bank. So, but if you want to place a card, no, that's going to be the website. There you go. I'll get that one going. Buy me a coffee as just a straight card transaction. If you can help cover the show's expenses, and I'll be asking, book support soon, because people on Patreon level will be getting free books as I've written and published them out. If you can help out with £1, euro, or $1 a month, but it goes a long way towards keeping this show and the extra shows of Nature Folklore afloat. So many thanks for your support, and I'll tell you what's coming up. I don't have the pictures of what's coming up, but we've got next Wednesday, 9th of November, we've got Finding Hidden Wells and Donegal Holy Wells, and we actually have a lovely guest, Catherine McGlynn, who is a well searcher, well hunter up in Donegal. So that's lovely. And then after that, 16th of November, go the opposite of the cursing wells, the healing at Holy Wells, and also maybe a couple of the wells in Wales. We might cover that. Then 23rd of November, I'm looking forward to this one. We're going to talk about the folklore of guardians at wells. And at that time, we might get a guest, and we'll be talking about some wells in Mayo. So thank you. I've really enjoyed being with you for this. Let's see what I'm doing. I'm getting all over the place here. I don't know why that's banners galore, knocking them off. There's some, and there we go. And I'm disappearing as well. That's interesting. And Andrea says, thank you very much. Dowsing's another subject, Amy. I'll be doing dowsing divination. I can't remember the date, but I'll be doing a whole feature on that, because it is a big feature as well. Yes, thank you for being Amy as well. That's lovely. Thanks. Thank you very much. So much to the Holy Wells. That's why I cover a little bit at each one. And I've got a whole year of subjects ahead. Anyway, thank you very much. If you're watching this broadcast as it is on the archive, please keep the comments going. Most of you will be watching this as the replay archive. I do return from time to time to answer your comments, answer your questions. And there's a bell icon. There's no one coming in from the YouTube this time, but there's a bell icon that gives you a chance to subscribe and be reminded of the next Holy Well Revival session. So enjoy a safe week full of wonder, inspirations, enchantments. Don't remember, got the final Nature Folklore on Sunday, which is going to be the folklore of crossing the veil. Because that's going to be, the Sunday is going to be the day before the point of cross quarter, between the midpoint between the between the fall autumn equinox and the winter solstice. So I'll be talking about crossing the veil. That'll be the final one for about 15 months. And then what will happen is all these nature folklores are going to go into 4 books because they're all written. I just have to edit. They'll be released at 4 points through the year. And I'll be providing teaser videos as well. So there'll be something nature folklore, but it won't be a live broadcast. But these teaser videos that come out showing you how I'm getting on and some extras. And there's Penny. Thank you. Looking forward to the Guardians of the Wells episode. That's 2 weeks, isn't it? Then don't forget, next week will be lovely as well. The Mayor Wells and how to find the wells. Yeah, hands-on one. And there's some it's the stories. It's actually going to be very entertaining next Wednesday. I mean, thank you. Thank you all. Kelly there. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, lovely. So I think that's about as much as I can do. We've gone almost gone to the hour instead of the half hour that I tried. So till next Wednesday on Nature Folklore, until next Wednesday, or see you on Nature Folklore on Sunday. Play well. Thank you very much. And it's bye-bye from me, if I can get up the bye-bye tune, which is not very... There we go. Thank you. Bye.